I'm 53, and this is how I train my hips. I've taught thousands of people to do the same, and I can tell you right now, the answer isn't more stretching. And in this video, I'm going to give you 3 exercises for hips that actually work the way they're supposed to, so you can stay strong, mobile, and in control. But first, try this with me right now so you can see exactly where your hips are at. We're going to use the general kneeling lunge in order to see where your hips are. So to start off, place one foot out in front. We like to have your knee over your foot, your hip over your knee. Now from this position, rather than just going forward, instead what I would like for you to do is go ahead and squeeze your butt. Now right away, what we're trying to do here is just take note of what's going on. Now you might feel tightness in the front of your leg from the hip flexor down to your thigh, and you might feel locked up, and that's what we're trying to address here. So from this position, as you're squeezing your butt, just bring yourself forward slightly, and again, test to see where your range of motion is here. I'm going to go ahead and switch now, go to the opposite side, and when we're doing this, the same thing applies. Knee over the foot, hip over the knee here, squeezing our butt and back. Now, again, taking note, one side might feel tighter than the other. From here, bringing ourselves forward just slightly, testing to see where our range of motion is. Your hips are tight because they're weak in positions that you never train in. So here's exercise 1, and this is where everything starts to change. The 90-90 switch is going to start off in the 90-90 position, also called the modified pigeon. What I'd like for you to do is sit comfortably and simply drop your knees to one side. This is the position that we're looking at here. Now, there's a few things that we can do to adjust this to make it feel more comfortable. 1, you can pull your feet in closer, and this might help you to sit more upright. Or you can use your hands for adjustment to place you into the position. And when you do that, don't force yourself into the position. There's no reason to do that. But again, you can make adjustments to your feet in order to get a deeper stretch, if you will, or make it easier for you as you perform the movement. Now we're going to put this into motion, and you might notice that one side feels easier than the other. Now in order to perform this side to side, we're first going to use our hands. So simply place your hands behind you, bring your knees up, and let them drop to the side. You can sit yourself up, pausing in this 90-90 position, and then going back to the opposite side. Now, once again, when you're performing this, you can adjust the feet depending on how it feels on each side, or use both of your hands. And you can eventually work to only use one hand and then ultimately no hands. Just understand that when you're performing this, you will have to round your back slightly when you're not using your hands. So with one hand, I push off with my left hand in this case, bringing myself into the position. I can pause here slightly, and then I can push off with my right hand, bringing me into the opposite side 90-90. Gradually working to do this with no hands. My hands out in front, side to side. Once again, you might find that you're going to have to round your back slightly when performing that. Okay, so for the 90-90 switches, work this side to side for about a minute or two, pausing briefly in the 90-90 position. Now remember, you can adjust things by moving your feet and also using your hands for support, so don't force this. Now, side note, we include the modified pigeon in our Elements program because it's so good for your hips. And now that you can get in the position safely, it's time to strengthen it with the 90-90 hip up. This is the 90-90 hip up. And we can perform it on both sides by using the 90-90 switch to go to the left and then to go to the right. Great hip opener, as well as helping us control when we're performing this movement. Now we can use our hands to help push ourselves up if need be. But a few mistakes that I actually see people do when they perform this is that they don't point their toes. Now, if you dorsiflex the foot so that the toes are facing forward, it's going to be difficult to get up. So make sure that you point your toes so that you can roll over the top of your foot and get your hips up. Now, another thing that I see is that people have a tendency to lean forward and then drive themselves up. Our goal is to imagine that there's a string at the top of our head and we're being pulled straight up. And the reason for this is that this is really going to help us to not only open up the hips, but strengthen the hips. And this is a key point because we're really using the hips by squeezing our butt, lifting the chest upward. So once again, we can perform this side to side, focusing on pointing the toes, lifting with the hips, driving the chest up, sitting back down, switching sides, hip up, and continue side to side. I suggest setting your timer for 1 minute and alternating between the right and the left. Now remember to lead with the hips and point your toes as you push yourself upward and forward. Now, if this is too hard for you right now, you can always use your hands for support. All right, now you've got the range and you've got the strength, but here's what most people miss. Your hips need to work when you're standing, moving, and off balance, and that's where this last move comes in. For a kneeling lunge with a twist, we'll start on our knees, placing one foot forward, pushing off of the foot so that our back knee hovers just slightly, and we'll twist towards the front leg, extending both arms. Bringing ourselves back to the center, we bring our knee back, switching legs, hover the rear knee as we twist towards the front leg. Now, when performing this, in the beginning, if you're having a bit of trouble, you can always keep this back knee on the floor. And in the beginning, try that, see how that goes. Extending forward, twisting, trying to look back at your thumb, coming back to the center, switching. Once again, driving the hips forward. And you can keep your knee on the ground, but drive that hip forward so that you can extend the arms, looking back at your thumb. Eventually moving so that you're hovering the back leg, twisting, and then doing it on both sides. Start off with just a couple reps and see how that goes. Now, make sure to keep it super slow and control. You want to feel what's happening in each position. Now, everything should be smooth and deliberate, so don't power through it. Now, if your balance is still an issue, then by all means, feel free to place your knee on the ground when you're performing this movement. Okay, now try that kneeling lunge again. It's the same thing we did at the beginning. Now, you feel the difference? That's what happens when you strengthen your hips through the range instead of just stretching them. I've also made a free hip mobility cheat sheet with 8 additional hip movements for you to download. Grab it in the description. All right, so now here's the best part. The thing is, these aren't just 3 random movements done separately. You can put them together into a flow, and this is how you do it. We're gonna start off with a 90-90 switch. Immediately going into a 90-90 hip up, pull the leg to the back so that you can step into a lunge, extend the leg, extend the arms, twist. Then you'll pull the back leg in, sitting down. You can use your hands for support. Performing this 90-90 switch to the opposite side, hipping up, switching the leg and back, leg comes forward, extend, leg comes to the middle. You can use your hand for support and come back in and repeat on the opposite side. And remember, at any point, you can use your hands for assistance to help yourself get into a position that's going to be good for you when performing the 90-90 switch, hip up, 2, lunge twist, and then back into it. So do this flow 2 to 3 times each side. It's great as a daily practice, warm up, or standalone routine. Now that you got those 3 exercises plus the flow, be sure to go and download that hip mobility cheat sheet. And if your shoulders are as locked up as most people's hips, none of your upper body training is going to work the way it should. So watch this video next where I show you how to fix that.